All right, guys. So yesterday, when I did a video about Jake Tapper basically trying to question Amy Klobuchar in regards to whether or not she felt threatened by a maskless Ted Cruz talking to her during Bob Dole's funeral, even though Jake Tapper is literally sitting like 3 feet across the table from Amy Klobuchar, maskless, I was like, this is peak insanity from CNN, right? This is peak insanity. It can't get more insane than this, right? But now, today, lo and behold, Dummy Don Lemon comes out here and ratchets it up, the insanity even more, as him and Brian Seltzer are basically going to have a discussion about how Fox News should be banned from the White House press room. Take a look.
We know all of this. Why does Jen Psaki even continue to call on Fox in the briefing room? And I mean, they've been very courteous and, I should say, kind, because if your network is promoting BS and lies about what is actually happening in the country and helping to inspire and incite an insurrection, why should they even be able to take part in a legitimate press briefing, in legitimate journalism?
Yeah, it's so tough because there are reporters still at Fox, very few getting airtime, and the last real good one just left the building.
Same question, Brian, even though she makes a very good point, even though they have vaccine rules and mask rules and mandates at their own places of business. But the question about why did they even allow Fox to pretend in the briefing room that they're a real news organization?
Well, I think we'd say historically, you got to keep as broad an opening of the press corps as possible, let in as many voices as possible, even let in cranks. And there's been a lot of cranks in the briefing room in the past, not Fox, but just randos that are able to come to the briefing. I think historically that's been the approach. Let as many people in as you can possibly fit in the room. But today at the briefing, what did Fox ask about? The Christmas tree being set ablaze, which was awful last week, and I was really disturbed to see it. But no one thinks that's the top 10 story in America today, except at Fox News. So what we have to do, I think, is recognize it for what it is. And you've been documenting it, Don. We've been trying to document it. Fox has changed dramatically. And these text messages tonight are more evidence that this media ecosystem has changed dramatically. Yeah. And we can't view it the way we did 10 years ago where, there's a bunch of channels and one leans left and one leans right. No, One now leans so far from reality that it's imperiled the country.
It's obvious they don't care about the truth. Anytime you see something on their air or you read something, you're like, oh, it's Fox. Well, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. So first and foremost, just full context in terms of the conversation they're having. They're talking about some text messages that basically got revealed about, some things that was happening in the White House and some conversations that were happening before January 6th. And Brian Seltzer is going to sit here and say, well, with all these things happening and these text messages being revealed in the White House, Fox News is asking Jen Psaki about a Christmas tree being burned. As if anybody thinks that's a top 10 story in this country. And my first thought was like, does anybody think that January 6th is a top 10 story in this country right now? No, seriously, it is almost a year removed from January 6th. And I legitimately don't think that anybody thinks it's a top 10 story in this country right now. I really don't. And that is evidenced by the fact that your network and MSNBC has constantly trailed Fox News in regards to ratings all year. Matter of fact, CNN's ratings are in the tank. Brian Seltzer's is the lowest. Okay, he is the absolute least watched major news journalist, anchor, whatever you want to call him. It seems to be across all three of those platforms. But yet, you're sitting here saying that what Fox News is covering, who is just flat out beating you guys up and down, right? Just flat out beating you. Oh, it's not relevant, right? It's not a top 10 news story. Again, because if you look at the numbers, the viewership, it seems to me, just personally, that January 6th is not a top 10 story anymore, right? But you guys have been talking about it all year, and nobody's been listening, right? Nobody's been listening to it. And the reason why is because nobody cares anymore, right? Nobody cares about January 6th, right? These are the same people who've been playing up this same story, this year-old story, okay, for a year straight, trying to roast Fox News for talking about a somewhat relevant story of one of their Christmas trees being burned, right? I think the Christmas tree story is more relevant than January 6th. Again, considering how Trump's not in office anymore. He's not in office. the people that were associated with January 6th, if you got anywhere close to the Capitol, you're probably on the FBI's watch list. Okay? All this stuff has happened, is over, is done with. There's really nothing else to say about it anymore. But yet they're still talking about it. And then they wonder why they don't get any views, why people don't watch them. Because you talk about the same irrelevant nonsense all day long, right? That's first and foremost what I want to say. And, CNN has this thing where they try to go after Fox for not being a quote unquote real news organization with real journalists. And I'm like, well, listen, here's the thing. First of all, you're like the pot calling the kettle black. However, in my opinion, Fox News, at least as of right now, they're not dealing with all their major news anchors having major allegations against them. Okay? I mean, you guys have somebody that was just suspended, Jeffrey Toobin, okay, for choking his chicken on a Zoom call, doing a work Zoom call, right? This legitimate news organization, CNN, brings him back on air. And the first day they have him issue an apology and explain the situation in detail with a woman on set with him, right? Don Lemon, who's talking right now, has his own allegations that he has to deal with, okay? Also on top of that, he was accused by Juicy Smollett of tipping off the police about how the police didn't believe Juicy's story, right? Potentially interfering with a law enforcement investigation. So Don Lemon really got two allegations that are against him. Two major allegations. You just fired Chris Cuomo because Chris Cuomo was using his sources, right? Probably some at CNN to help his brother out with his Me Too allegations. Not to mention, Chris Cuomo got Me Too allegations as well. And to top it all off, there was just a story that came out earlier this week about how CNN basically had a predator working for them in their own place, in their workplace with Chris Cuomo. You have Lil Bron Seltzer, who probably is one of the least watched anchors on TV, trying to chime in on this conversation as if anybody takes him seriously whatsoever. But these are the people who got the cojones to go on national TV and to try to call out Fox News every single night saying they're not a legitimate news organization, and you have all these people working for that network. I just don't get it, bro. I just don't understand it. It's like self-awareness doesn't exist. Self-awareness doesn't exist at CNN. It's the same news organization that threw a hissy fit when the Trump White House had temporarily banned Jim Acosta from the press room because he's a liar, basically. And then you got Don Lemon explicitly advocating for Fox News to be banned from the White House press room, right? I mean, come on, man. These people, again, they have no shame. They have no shame. And it goes without saying that the worst part about this is not just the hypocrisy, considering how, again, what they got going on in their own failing news network, but it's the fact that you have a major news outlet calling to ban another major news outlet from the White House press room just because they don't want Peter Doocy asking Jen Psaki and Joe Biden tough questions. That's what this is about. It's about one narrative and one narrative only. We don't want anybody in the room that's going to ask some real questions, that's going to press the press secretary and the president on what's going on in this country. While we're experiencing massive inflation, a supply chain crisis, crime out of control, right? A border crisis, all these things that the American people want answers to, and you should be asking questions about every single day. No. Get those people out of the room that are actually asking those questions. Get those people out, right? We had enough of Peter Doocy owning Jen Psaki, okay? We had enough of that. We just want to keep people in there that's going to ask questions about, I don't know, diversity and inclusion, right? And January 6th. That's all you want to talk about. If you ask anything about what's actually really going on in this country, things that actually really affect people's lives, no. You're asking tough questions. You should be banned. You're not a real news outlet, right? And I'm not even trying to give Fox News all that much credit because Fox News ain't really all that much better than the other outlets. But I'm just saying, one thing about Fox News I will say is that, they don't go as low as CNN when it comes to just the outright authoritarian censorship, okay? I ain't never heard on Fox News somebody call for CNN not to be allowed into the White House or whatever because, we don't feel like they're a real news network. But on CNN, on Brian Seltzer's show, I've heard people literally advocate that Fox News should be taken off the air. They should just pull the plug on Fox News. It's crazy. This is the type of stuff that happens in the media, guys, that we can sit here and we can laugh about because it's silly, but it's also downright scary. It's scary because this is how you get to an authoritarian fascist state. It starts with the press. It starts with the media. It starts with censorship, limiting speech. And again, when you have a major news outlet saying we want to ban another major news outlet just because we don't think they're real journalists or that they're real news, again, that's how you start to get there, right? And we all know that the White House is on board with it because Biden and his team met with some of these news outlets to try to get more positive coverage for the inflation crisis in the economy. Again, this stuff is scary, man. Again, we can laugh about it all day, but it is truly scary, and it is something that everybody should be worried about is the direction that this media is going. It is going more authoritarian by the day. You wouldn't think that after all this stuff happening at CNN, that CNN would go in a different direction, that they would actually really get some real journalists, stop calling the censor Fox News, get rid of Brian Seltzer, probably get rid of Don Lemon too. You would think that's what they would do, but no, they're doubling down on the nonsense, right? So, hey, it is what it is. People won't continue to watch them. So, but outside of the authoritarianism, I ain't really got all that much to complain about because seeing them fail is actually quite entertaining. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.